Hello and welcome to Above All Else, a podcast for women who are desiring to go deeper in their relationship with Jesus. I am Brianna Ferdrowski with Emily Bird and Jen Kish, and we are so excited to be with you guys today. It is a rainy day here. I don't know what it's like for you, Emily. I guess Jen and I are pretty close in proximity, so but how's it been down there?
Oh, it is definitely rainy and overcast, but it is not rainy and overcast in this house. Adeline was supposed to come home from college today, and we weren't expecting her until tonight. So I told her, I was like, Adeline, I'll have everything ready to start decorating when you get home. And she showed up last night. I walked out of my bedroom, and there she was sitting at the kitchen table.
Oh,
Oh,
So it is, even though it's rainy outside, it is cheerful in this house. And Jason
yeah.
Bird is home. He has not taken a day off. He moved here September a year ago. He took off the day that we moved in January, and then of course we had a very quick vacation. He took those days off, but he has not had a single day off since the 6 days that he has taken since moving here September of 22. So he is home yesterday and today. So even when it's overcast, he's actually pressure washing our driveway when it's kind of drizzling. That doesn't make any sense to me, but he's like, come on out. So I've just admired his work. Like, oh, good job.
Oh, I love it.
So it's really, really, really been a nice 2 days. However, my house is a wreck right now, but by tonight it will be fully decorated, and we
Oh,
will fully be in the Christmas spirit. So
I love it. Oh, that's
awesome.
wonderful. Jen, how's your week been?
Good. Very good. I already have, I almost said my favorite guests for Thanksgiving, but it's only because they brought the babies and we love the babies. But my brother-in-law and his wife arrived on Saturday. And so they've been here already for a few days, and we are also decorating for Christmas today. We're gonna have a Christmassy Thanksgiving. So super excited about that. And we've just had a sweet, sweet time. We only get to see them a couple times a year. So we're thrilled to have them, and and the babies, of course, just bring so much joy and life to my kids. It's
mhm.
weird when your kids aren't the babies anymore and they get to interact and take care of someone else's babies. So we're doing all the holiday things. So it's good.
Oh,
It's not dreary in this house either today.
I love it. And honestly, I have been really excited about the rain. Like, I feel like it was so needed
Yeah.
that it has been rainy, but it's been good. Almost like a cleansing, like cleaning everything off, getting rid of anything that my husband is allergic to, hopefully, because he's allergic to so many things. These children, and
Oh,
my kids both have Joseph's allergies, and so every season
oh,
of the year it's just somebody sneezing or coughing or having to do a breathing treatment. Like, I didn't grow up with that, so like, I don't know what to do.
something new.
You
Yeah.
guys, this is too much. There's too many allergies. But we had our last day of school today, and so it's officially break.
Yay!
Officially.
Yay.
So we're excited. Oh man.
Awesome.
Um,
And
so
rainy days, I feel like they give us a time to rest. Like
Mhm.
it's so I feel guilty if I'm inside when it's sunny and I need to be I can be doing some work outside. I don't know. So there's something kind of nice about rainy days that
Mhm. Yeah.
it gives you permission to rest and sort of be still. That was a conversation we had around my kitchen table this morning, actually, that
Yeah.
we can appreciate rainy days.
Mhm.
Um, Anyways,
We
sorry.
had we had an opposite conversation. My son called me, my 15-year-old, and he's like, "Mom, I wasn't made for rain." He's like, "I cannot sit in here all day long and do nothing." And I was like, "Well, you got to run 5 miles today for basketball. You might as well go out and run." He's like, "I can't run in the rain." I was like, "Oh yes,
Yes, you
yes you
can.
can." So that was a first for him, but he was just like, "What am I gonna do with this entire day? I wasn't made for the rain, Mom."
That is so funny. Oh man,
It's
I
funny.
love rainy days. I wish There are times when
Yeah,
I
I
wish
do
that we
too.
had a metal roof. And then there are times I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sure that would probably get on my nerves, but just the sound, I don't know. And then it's fall, right? So we have like the fall candles and you have the, I
Mm-hmm.
just, it's a whole vibe, I guess. I don't
Whole
Yes.
know.
vibe.
I
Light the
love it.
fireplace.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, we bought these like Christmas lights from Walmart for 6.40. Here's a plug for Walmart
There we go. We
for
love them.
$6.44, and they dance to Christmas music.
Oh,
Like
What?
whatever song you play, it's not like their own music. They'll dance to whatever song you play, and it is bringing me so much joy. Like
I need
these
those.
simple little lights, they are making my whole week right now. They are so fun. So anyway, I don't know really why I told you guys that, but go to Walmart and get you some dancing lights for
well,
6.44.
that is where my big girls are right now. They are at
Text
Walmart getting
them.
I was
lights.
about to say, send them a
Are they?
message.
That is
I
6:45.
hope
exactly
that
where
they
they are.
find those.
Oh
I
I don't
hope
know
they
man.
what
find
they'll
those.
come home with, but I won't be surprised if that's not them. That's
Yeah,
funny.
so
Awesome.
fun.
Oh,
So
I
I love
love
Christmas lights
that.
Oh.
in my
My
house.
my sister had a tree that connected Bluetooth, like the lights connected to her phone, and she could control the lights with her phone, but also the music, and like it would dance to the different. I need some
Yeah,
dancing lights. We need
I
dancing
wrap
lights.
these around trees. They're so
I
cool.
love
Yeah,
that.
get you
Oh
some.
man, we need to just okay, putting Walmart on my to-do list before I go home today.
High
Oh,
tech
that's
Christmas.
awesome.
High tech.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Oh man. So this week, we're kind of, I would say a little bit shifting gears because I feel like we've kind of talked a lot about family and we've talked about comparison and those kinds of things, but really kind of shifting the focus a little bit more inward on kind of the posture of our hearts, I would say is kind of the direction that we're going to go today. And the I would say, other than Jesus being the inspiration for it, just kind of comes from quiet time, just kind of thinking through things that I have been shown in my quiet time, and I think things that throughout our lives we've all, the Lord has revealed to us at some point. And so we're going to look today a little bit in the book of Haggai. And I'm saying that right. Yeah, because I feel like I hear it said 400 different ways. Is it Haggai? Haggai? Jen, how do you say it? Emily, how do you say
I
it?
say Haggai. I'm
I
a
say
Haggai
Haggai
girl.
as well. However,
Okay,
I have heard Haggai. So
so I
Me
usually
too.
say Haggai, but I was like, but what if I'm wrong?
I think the Awana song says Haggai, like the
Okay,
little books of the Bible song, and so that's where I've heard the other one. So I don't know.
so we're
Mr.
I
H.
yeah, there we go. We've
they
said the
know
name
what
of
we're talking
we've
about.
said the name of the book so many times that we don't even have to reference it now. We got it.
That's right. We
You know
got
where to
it.
go. Minor prophets. There you go. But when he is, I'm just gonna call him he because I'm not gonna say his name wrong again. But when he is talking to the people of Israel and they're saying, he asks them if they would come into contact with a dead body. And if doing so makes the person who touched it unclean, and the priests are like, yes, it's unclean. And he responds to them when they're like, yeah, well, that's unclean. He says, so it is with the people of this nation before me, declares the Lord. So with every work of their hands and what they offer, there is unclean. And I think that just kind of hit me because there was this part of me, and that's in 2 verses. Oh, let me get down there to it. 2 verses 13
13.
through 14.
Mhm.
And when I kind of started thinking about that, I was just thinking about the things in my life, like is the things that I do, right? So if worship is a posture of our hearts, and it's not just a worship service on Sundays, right? It's not just the music, it's not just the preaching that we do, like our lives themselves should be worship. And in that is the motivation of my heart, is the posture of my heart one that when the Lord looks at what I'm doing, he's like, well, that's unclean. like, just like the Israelites wouldn't touch a dead carcass, right? Because it would become unclean. That thing would become unclean. Like, what am I building? Does my worship through raising my kids, loving my husband, ministry just in general, um, is that edifying? Is it something that where the posture of my heart is right? And I think that we have to do those self checks, obviously. But what, I guess, Jen, maybe in your own experience, your own life, what how do you check yourself to make sure that the posture of your heart is making sure what you're offering is clean? What do you do? What does that look like for you? If that makes sense. Just kind of curveball.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Well, because I think so. My pastor said something interesting this Sunday, and I wish I could quote it directly to you, but what he said was that the worship that we do on Sunday should be an overflow of the worship that we did on Monday through Saturday. And that resonated with me so strongly because you're right, worship is a heart posture. And I need to come to church ready to worship corporately because I've been worshiping privately all week, right? So
Mhm.
I think that getting ready for worship is a big part of what we need to do. I think we need to go and approach corporate worship as though we are there to serve, like to lift up a praise to God and not to be like looking around to see, if or I guess if everything is the way we like it in the sanctuary, or if our favorite song was played, or doing anything that would be showy, like to be seen by other people. Are we worshiping the same corporately as we worship privately? And I learned a lot about this several years ago because I was in a moment where I was just worshiping the Lord in my living room, and that was sort of out of character for me to worship Him with my body in my living room. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I had music blaring and I was worshiping the Lord. I was all alone um, in that room at the moment. But then my kids started coming in, and I was like slowly like go back to where you came from. I'm with the Lord right now. And then my littlest one came in and he just kind of mimicked what I was doing, and I was like, oh, I'm doing this wrong. Like I need to bring them into this moment with me.
Mm.
And that was a moment of sort of like a light bulb moment for me to remind myself that I don't have to send people away so that I can have a quiet moment of focused worship, because worship is an overflow of what the Lord is doing in my heart. So pulling my kids in to that worship moment, I think was like, it really changed how I think about worship. And I feel like that's a whole big circle to say that the Lord has taught me a lot about worshiping outside of the sanctuary,
Mm.
Mhm.
and that I'm continuing to learn. But there is a whole lot of satisfaction that happens when it's just you and the Lord privately and you are worshiping Him. I don't know, there's just something, He draws near. And I am grateful that I am in a place where I am learning that Sunday is supposed to be an overflow of the filling that happened during the week,
Mm.
instead of looking at church as I'm going to church on Sunday to get filled, you
Mhm.
know? Because
Right,
that's such a different thing. Because I
right.
can't get filled on Sunday and then hope that my tank will make it until the
Mm.
next Sunday,
Yeah.
you know? I mean,
Mhm.
my gas tank is on empty right now. I have 16 miles to empty. I don't know that I'll make it to the gas station, right? And I think sometimes that's how we approach worship.
Yes.
We're like limping into worship to try to get refilled when God is with us all the time, and worship should happen everywhere we are because we're indwelled with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
So, and talking about clean hands, like that's part of our worship. David says, "Lord, give me clean hands," right?
Mhm.
So it's that introspection of asking God, "Hey, gosh, I hate to do this." It's so hard to say, "Hey, God, is there something in my life that is not pleasing to you? Is there something that I need to deal with?" And that is 100% part of worship.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes,
Absolutely.
oh, I love that. I've heard that saying that it's an overflow before, and I just love it. I love that picture. I think sometimes we think of worship as just showing up, like I said, on Sunday mornings, being ready to be filled. Emily, what, and I know, like I said, worship is our posture, right? It's a posture of our heart. How do you um focus your heart, focus your posture on the Lord? What does that look like? Worship day to day, right? So if we want practically, what does it look like to have this posture? What does that look like in your life?
Um, I think Jen nailed it on the head a while ago about when David talked about, is search me, see if there's any offensive way in me. I learned in 20, see when, oh gracious, I think it was the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021. I was reading a book by and Graham Lotz, I think that's who
Mm.
it was, about the Daniel prayer. Is that it?
Mhm.
Oh, I hate to, I think that's it. But anyways, it's about the prayer that Daniel prayed. And anyways, I ended up, in my prayer journal every day would like, Lord, search me, see if there's any offensive way in me. And I would faithfully praying that. And I would begin to write down the things that he was bringing up. I did not realize that this was going to be like a 2.5 week journey of me writing things that I didn't even realize that was down deep in me.
Mm.
But after I got to the end of that 2.5, very, very humbling weeks. I actually went over that prayer journal probably a month and a half ago, and I need to go back and do that again, because after I got to the end of that 2.5 weeks, um, talking about having clean hands, because I was confessing those sins that I didn't even realize that were down deep. And there was such freedom in worship and in praise. It was, give me clean hands, give me a pure heart, let my hands not be lifted to another. It pure unadulterated worship and praise came from confession, that and things I
Mm.
didn't realize. And he was so faithful. When you ask the Lord to reveal that sin to you, he is faithful
He
to
will.
answer that prayer.
Mhm.
And once he reveals that sin, um there is freedom, there. And there's freedom there to raise my hands in praise. And that was a really, really, really sweet gift that the Lord gave me. I didn't enjoy, I'll be the first to tell you, I did not enjoy him revealing this ugliness that I didn't, there was
Mhm.
some of it, of course I knew, but a lot of it I had no idea. And so I've tried to keep that as as a regular thing that I do.
Mhm.
I've never done a 2.5 week spree of that since, praise the Lord. But I
Yeah.
try to keep a very, very short list of confession. And he tells us that if we're harboring sin in our heart, he doesn't hear our prayers. So
Mhm.
I try to keep that a very, very short list, and that I am a firm believer in confession.
Mhm.
And that freedom allows you to just worship freely in spirit and in truth, because he's knocked down that wall that keeps me
Mhm.
from him. Sin is a wall,
Mhm.
and it keeps us
Yes.
separated from Christ. So that was a really hard lesson. And I hate to say that here I am 40, what was I at the time? 43, 44 at the time, learning. Yeah, 44 at the time, learning. And I've always confessed, but not to that extent. And so that's something that has really changed my life and truly gave me freedom
Mhm.
to worship. So
No,
hope that
Well,
answers
and
the
that,
question.
it does. Yeah. Good, Jen. Sorry.
sorry, I was just thinking because you were talking about humility before, Bree. I think it may have been before we came on, but that is such a huge part of worship.
Mhm.
It, like you wonder, well, why do I have to tell God? He knows anyway. Why do he and I have to have a conversation about it if he already knows? Can't we just like move on and but no, because when we recall and confess,
Mhm.
then that breaks down our pride and brings us to
Mhm.
a point of humility, and humility has to come before worship.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think it's neat the way you tied those two together,
Mhm.
Emily.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that confession, like that's one of those things, like just repentance, like it's something that I think sometimes as believers, some believers think that, like, okay, well, I repented and I'm a Christian and I've been forgiven of everything. So it's fine. Kind of like you're saying, like, he knows it's fine. It's already been covered. But like, that's such a big part of worship is that, like, tear down those walls, tear down those things,
Right.
Lord. Like, I am repenting of any time that I have made this about me, any time that
Mhm.
I have made this, about anything other than you. And I'm sitting here kind of like gobsmacked, and I know that's like the craziest word that could ever have come from me just now. And I don't know why that was the word that I thought of. But I think that it's there's so many things right now that the Lord is just like, hey, I've been trying to tell you this for, you know, and I don't know, this past 2 weeks, as we know, have been an adventure, and the Lord is just kind of, hey, listen, repentance is worship. And there might have been
Mm.
times when I've made things about me, but there's forgiveness, and there is
Yes, ma'am.
like, hey, listen, it's not about you, and that's fine. It's him talking to me. Um, but that's such a big part of worship. And I'm sorry that was random just now, that little rabbit trail, but it's just the Lord has just I I didn't see this coming, 45 minutes ago when we decided to talk. So I just the Lord is good and reveals things, and he's wonderful, and
Mhm.
oh man.
I I think that's so great, Brie, though, because I want the women that are listening to know that we are the three of us are actively undergoing like spiritual warfare, battling against the enemy, seeking the Lord, failing the Lord, falling short, missing our quiet times. Like we are not perfect women who are here trying to tell people how to do this. So I love when you share like that authentically what you're going through right now is something that somebody else needs to hear so that they can say, "Hey, I can see myself in what she's going through right now. And I know that if the Lord is good to her, then he'll be good to me." And
Mhm.
so I think that the Lord has given you those words for a reason and that they're for somebody.
I
Oh,
agree.
he's good. Let me just say that for anybody out there wondering,
He
he
is
is.
good.
He is good, and
He
he
is
is
good.
Oh.
sustained me and continues to do so. And there are times, when I need a heart check, because it's easy, I think, sometimes to get in a rhythm even of doing things in our own power, not because we're like, well, Lord, I'm more powerful than you, but because we I, and I don't know how to say this without sounding arrogant, but like the Lord has shown me so many things that sometimes I think even in ministry and life, I get to this place where I'm like, oh, well, the Lord, like I learned about this and I can just do this in my own strength. But he's like, hey, no, even though you know what you're doing, you don't actually know what you're doing. And I need you to calm down, and the posture of your heart needs to be checked. And I need to make sure that I'm the focus, bringing and stop focusing on yourself. So,
Oh, but isn't he so good that when we are weak, then he is strong. He says, my
mhm,
grace is sufficient for you. Because when you're weak, then I am strong. Talking about the Lord, he says, I am strong.
yes.
Therefore, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to boast in our weakness so that the power of Christ will rest upon us. Like, oh, it is okay. Oh, so he is so good, and he is able to do all things. And when we are weak, that is a good place to be
Yeah.
because that is when he is strong.
Yeah.
And I love that we are to boast in our weakness. We are not to have to put on airs that we are strong enough and we can handle it. We are to boast in our weakness. Therefore, Christ will be glorified through our weakness. And that is a good place to be. That's not what the world says. The world says you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Absolutely not. It is Christ who will pull us up. So, I think it's okay to admit our weakness, and when we are struggling, I think we're supposed to do that. And it's when you and I are real, that's what draws other people in. If I act like I've got it all together, which I don't at all. But when we are real, somehow that draws people in, and it brings the body of Christ closer together, and we lift each other up through prayer and through encouragement. It gives other people the opportunity to be able to come along their fellow sister or brother and lift them up and help them when they're too weak to stand. We are the ones, who were the two men who stood beside Moses, Aaron and
held their arms up.
and held his arms up when he was too weak to lift them up during the battle. Who's the other guy? Why can't I think of his name right now?
Is it Joshua? Is it?
No.
I'm
gonna look it up. I won't say his name.
We'll have to cut. We can chop.
Chop that part off.
Oh no, it's staying in. It's is it her? H-U-R? Her?
I think it's her.
Her?
Aaron and her. I could be wrong. H-U-R.
No, it says H-U-R. No, it says, I Googled it.
Is that right?
Because I know things, but I didn't know that. And so, no.
Yeah. But what a sweet opportunity for other people to be Aaron and her when I am too weak to keep my arms raised. I steal a blessing from someone when I try to be too strong and try to do all things in my own strength. I can do it. I can do it. No, you can't.
No.
And I think, like, when we look at Paul, when he was talking to, is it the Church of Corinth, right? Where he's talking about, his grace being, about God's grace being sufficient.
Yes.
He's, right before he says, your grace is sufficient for me, he's saying, hey, listen, I asked the Holy Spirit 3 times to take this from me.
Right.
I asked him to remove this thing. And instead of taking it, he responded, my grace is sufficient for you. So I will boast even more of my weakness. And I think sometimes we have these things, right, that we just want it to be gone, right? We have this thing that is that thorn in our flesh, right? It's a thorn in our flesh, and we've asked the Lord to remove it, and it's not going anywhere. And he's saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to take this because that's not going to teach you anything. It's not going to, if I just made everything better, you've learned to lean on your own understanding and instead of mine.
Right.
And so, he doesn't take it from us, but he is sufficient, and that thing might linger. That thing might be there for forever, and it might be something that we have to daily go to battle with the enemy over. But it's that constant battle and realizing I can't do this battle on my own, and I can't, like, there's absolutely no way I can face this on my own, where our hearts do change that posture from I'm fine, I can do it, I just take it away from me. And God says, no, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to change your heart through this, and your heart will be directed to me in an attitude and posture of worship. And that's hard sometimes, though, to be like, you're not going to take this. Okay, it's fine.
Yes. I think that is such a beautiful thing, though, for us to see that Paul is one of my very favorite Bible characters. I think he probably is for many people because of the work that he did. But I think that he could have boasted in what he was doing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because we look at Paul and we're like, wow, Paul I mean, you were shipwrecked and stoned and jailed, and you kept going for Christ. But because we know that he had this thorn, he was not a perfect man like Jesus. He
Mm-hmm.
was battling something physically, and so he was able to overcome and to keep pursuing the things of God while God held him up. So I think that it gives us permission, or takes away any excuse to, I can't do this for the Lord because I have that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it also teaches us, because that is where we're supposed to let God be strong for us, and that we probably are never more like Jesus than we are when we are letting his strength hold us up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think pursuing God, even like despite the thorn, despite the thing that he, for whatever reason chooses not to remove from us, that is where he can be most greatly glorified,
Mm-hmm.
because it's clearly not in my own strength, but it's because God picked me up off the floor. It reminds me of a story. Emily, I don't know if you remember this, a few years ago. I was battling something big, and I was on my face in my closet, and I was supposed to be speaking at a women's event, and I like couldn't even put on my makeup. Like, I was supposed to be there in like an hour, and I called Emily when the Lord had given me enough strength to get off the floor, and I said, "Will you meet me in the parking lot and pray with me, because I cannot do this. I'm going to have to say I cannot do it if God doesn't intervene." So I could not in my own strength find it within me to get up and tell the story of God's goodness in that moment, because I was so just entrenched in ugly,
Mm-hmm.
and the Lord was so grateful to hold me up for that period of time. And then that was just one of those moments where I was too weak. I was too weak physically, mentally, spiritually. I was in a mess, and the Lord gave me a friend to come alongside and hold my arms up. And also, he gave me the strength to get me off that floor. So he will come to you. And Brie, I know that's what you need to hear right now, is in that weakness, that he is your strength.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And it's proven over and over again. It's not something that I'm just, but I think so many people struggle with that. Like, I have to be strong. I have to be this. I have to, no. And I think even for my girls, because, you know, our kids see when we struggle with things. And I mean, Kaylin, I'm sure will be great when she gets older. I'm sure she'll be great. But Braylee is a very empathetic person. And she has seen me cry, obviously. I'm her mom. She's seen me cry. Um, and I, she's worried about me because of who she is as a person. But I had to say, like, I'm okay because Jesus is good. And, using those times where I'm like, yeah, Braylee, like, this is hard, but you know what? Jesus is good. And I think sometimes we think we have to be so strong, which obviously there are things that we do shelter our children from. I am not saying that we just willy-nilly, here's everything, let's cross all the boundaries and give our kids, trauma that they have to work through in therapy when they're older. But like, there's a certain, I think, appropriateness for our kids to see, like, mom doesn't have it together, because mom's struggling because she's fighting against an enemy that's not flesh and blood. She's, this is spiritual warfare, but Jesus is good, and he's going to be our strength through this. And so even if mommy gets a little sad sometimes, like, it's okay, because the Lord is our strength and he will strengthen all of us. And I think sometimes there's this idea that we have to be so strong for our kids that they never see us cry, never see us have any kind of, but then I think we paint this picture that reliance is completely on us, and that when we're not honest about where that strength comes from, if that makes sense. I don't know if that probably was a big circle to talk in, but it's just kind of been life over the past couple of weeks, and I know so many people that, well, I have to be strong for my kids. No, no, no. Jesus will be strong for you. It's okay to let your kids know that Jesus is your strength right now. That you can't do this on your own because you can't, and that's okay. And the Lord wants you to get to that point where you say, I can't do this on my own, Lord. I need you. And to show your kids that, I think is a beautiful thing, but that
I
might be
know in a lot of well, the majority of Adeline and Clara's formative years, we were losing babies, and they were going through that with us. So, baby after baby after baby, and all of those miscarriages, and when we lost Thomas, um, and they saw me weak, and but the beautiful thing was they saw us having to bond together as a family in prayer because we were
Mhm.
all weak. They were weak. And I remember one morning, Adeline coming up to me and it was one of those hard mornings where I'm in tears and I'm grieving. And, just like you always say, Bree, grief hits in waves. And that morning had just been a big wave. And it was Adeline. She had already heard me crying in my bathroom. That's where I cry. And she came up to me and it's like, Mama, I've been praying for you. And um, they learned through all of us being weak that when we're weak, we go to the Lord,
Mhm.
and that was a very formative thing for them as very young children. And if you ask them today, if you ask Adeline today, her first response is to go to the Lord in prayer. And I don't think that she would probably have known that as well if we hadn't had those years of struggle where we
Mhm.
had, I cannot physically get out of bed today unless it is your strength. And telling them that, like, who Mama is struggling and we just need to pray for the Lord to meet us where we are right now and to help us get through this day. And so hard stuff ends up being being beneficial once we get through it. You can see that it's the Lord has redeemed that situation, and he's done good things through it. He he makes all things work for good, and I can see that happening in the lives of especially my big girls. Because so I think it is okay to be weak in front of your children, and for all of us to seek the Lord. It's I think it will work itself out eventually, and you'll see that good things are coming to your little one when she sees you struggle.
Mhm.
um so
I don't think we want our kids to leave our houses going, Mama was so strong. How was she so
no,
strong? Because
Mhm.
like, because they're gonna get to those weak moments too. And they're gonna say, well,
absolutely.
what's wrong with me? Because my mom was so strong. No, God was strong within
Mhm.
me. And that's just another way that we remind them and teach them without words to lean on Jesus, because he's the only one that can give us strength to battle some of these, especially grief, and loss and things like that, or just challenging times financially, or a new move, or any
Mhm.
any of those things. If they can see that our strength is not from within ourselves, don't be strong like Mama. Be strong like Jesus was in Mama.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
just let
absolutely.
Jesus be strong in you like he was in Mama. So I think that would be a disservice to our kids.
I agree.
Most
I agree.
definitely. Oh man, ladies, I have just really loved this conversation today, and I think I'm prayerful that it ministered to so many other people. But even if not, I feel like my heart is so so much like just full of joy right now. So it is a pleasure getting to do this with you ladies. I just love it so much.
Mm.
Um Oh goodness. Well, we have enjoyed today. I would say I'm speaking for everybody. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do that, but I would say hopefully
You
we've all
can.
enjoyed today. Okay. Oh man. Well, we have enjoyed today, and we are just so glad that you have joined us on this journey. As we're just kind of walking through life and honestly just being real, because I think that's what we need is
too.
to be real and to let everybody know a very real God in our situations.
Yes.
And I think that that's ultimately the point of all of this. And so
Mhm.
hopefully you've been encouraged by something you've heard today. Um, if you have been, we would love it if you would just leave us a comment or send us a message. Let us know how the Lord's working in your life, how you're being encouraged. What are some things maybe that we could pray for you over? I don't know. I'm anything like that, because as the body of Christ, that's our job. We mentioned earlier. So. Oh man, well, we will see you all again in 2 weeks, and we'll talk to you later.